Hi everyone, welcome to our get together on the topic of how can I find balance. Talking to us today is Kirsten Müller-Daubermann about how taking care of our physical self can support our mental well-being, especially important at this particularly stressful time. Kirsten is a mental health advocate, a sports coach, and a regular host for Get Together webinars and get-togethers. So Kirsten, hi, welcome. Where are you joining us from today?
Hi, Anna. It's great to be here. I am joining from Zurich, Switzerland.
Kirsten, like I just mentioned, you're a regular host for our webinars, for our get-togethers, and we actually recently had a webinar with the astronaut Gerhard Thiele. And I'd love to start our conversation with a quote from the webinar that we had when he said, "The mind wants to live in a body it can enjoy." What do you think about that statement?
Yeah, that was a brilliant quote. And he was so full of wisdom and inspiration that I encourage anyone to go back and watch his get together as well as the webinar. Really, what he expressed there was what we're talking about today. And that is that we are not just a mind or just a body. And those two things aren't separate. That I think when we really think of ourselves, our conception of ourselves, we are a holistic being. The mind and the body are not separate. And the mind, our conscious self, of course, wants to live in a body that it can enjoy. Now, the truth is that when you're sick or you have chronic illness, or you are injured, a lot of people don't have the choice to live in a body that they can enjoy, right? So we consciously, I think, need to be grateful for what we do have in the bodies and the strength that we do have, because there are so many people that don't have mobility necessarily, or suffer from disability, or are sick, especially at this time when so many people are sick, whether it's with COVID-19 or something else. So I loved his quote, and it was just a really, really great reminder that the mind and body are all connected, and that if we want to have good mental health, then we have to take care of our physical self. And if we want to have good physical health, we also have to take care of the way that we think and be conscious of our mental health.
Absolutely. And talking a bit more about this mind-body connection, how does physical activity have the potential to make us feel better mentally?
Yeah, well, I grew up as a dancer. And so from a very, very young age, movement was just a part of my life. I loved to do it. I enjoyed dance class. Any time that I could move or go outside or be active was when I felt the most confident and the most full of life and an abundant joy. And so I feel very thankful that I started moving at a very young age. And so seeing the connection between movement and joy and peace and well-being and a sense of self-worth were very connected. And I could see that from a very, very early age. But what we know from the science, and obviously I'm not a scientist, but I went through, as a teenager, I was a dancer, but I also struggled with an eating disorder and went through a lot of work to recover from that. And that was when I was first exposed to the world of therapy and diving deep down into the emotional roots of these things and working on them so that you can go on and live a healthy, full, productive life. And so what you can see very clearly from that, even though I'm not a scientist, is that what a lot of the research does support is that physical activity helps increase blood circulation to the brain, which helps produce these hormones, these feel-good hormones like dopamine, helps reduce cortisol levels, which of course everyone knows is the stress hormone. And that when we engage in physical activities, it helps the brain to work better, so that it can help fight those negative emotions. But also when you do something physically active, and I want to stress here that it doesn't have to be sports, right? Because I'm not a sporty person. I love to run. I love to spin on the bike. I love to skip outside, but I'm horrible with a ball. I can't play sports for the life of me. I'm supremely uncoordinated. So movement and exercise doesn't have to be sports. It can just be moving. It can be dancing. It can be swimming. It could be anything that is fun for you to get yourself moving. It also gives you a sense of accomplishment. It helps you feel that you did something meaningful. You did something to take care of yourself, because physical activity is also a form of self-care. So not only does it, from a scientific perspective, actually help the brain to work better, and help relieve symptoms of anxiety and depression, but it also just tangibly, it makes us feel good about ourselves that we accomplished something. It gives us a goal to work towards. And then when we accomplish it, we can reward ourselves and say, hey, I did a good job.
That is so true. And I think all of us have had that experience where you just feel better after you've done something, whether it's sports or just getting outside. That movement,
Yeah.
we know that it makes us feel better. But let's be honest, I mean, it's sometimes really hard to get going. Why? Why is that? Even though we know that it will make us feel better, why can't we just do it?
Well, that is the question of all human history, right? And it doesn't just apply to physical activity. It's anything else character building that we want to do, and we know it's the right thing to do, but just sometimes we don't. Because on the one hand, first of all, we're human and we're imperfect. So you're going to not exercise sometimes when you know that you should, right? That's just, you're human, you're forgiven, it's fine. But another reason is that the brain and the body like to be comfortable. That's the way that we've evolved as humans. We avoid pain and seek pleasure. And I think probably if you talk to someone who's sitting on the couch, it feels a lot more pleasurable to sit on the couch than to get up and work your muscles, which might involve some pain at first, not the bad kind of pain. But so, that's just a natural human thing. But the wonderful part about having a consciousness and having a frontal lobe is can say, okay, I haven't done activity in a couple days, or I know it would be a good idea to get my heart rate up. So I am going to move myself up off this couch and just do 30 jumping jacks. The cool thing about movement is that, I really have found to be true in my own life. Newton's, I think it's second law, but I'm not sure. Don't quote me on it. Like I said, I'm not a physicist, but a body in motion tends to stay in motion. A body at rest tends to stay at rest. So if you can do a little something every day, you've worked it into your routine and your body is now used to it. And start small. I think one of the biggest reasons that people don't start is because they think, oh, if I'm going to exercise today, I have to do 30 minutes of cardio or I have to do 30 minutes of strength training, or they build it up in their mind as this big commitment they have to make. There's research that shows that even just doing 30 minutes of moderate exercise a day, which could be a 10-minute walk with the dog in the morning, a 10-minute cleaning session after lunch, like where you're really scrubbing the bathroom or something, and then you have a beautifully clean bathroom afterward, and a 10-minute walk after dinner. That those three things, to break it down into smaller chunks, helps a lot. And then you notice that you do start to gain more energy, and then you can tackle maybe some bigger or more challenging things. But start small is one way that can really help to push past that initial discomfort of wanting to move.
That's fantastic practical advice. And it can be quite daunting when you've bitten off more than you feel you can chew in any given day. But do you have any other tips when you really don't want to get up off of that couch? What do you do to motivate yourself to get moving?
Yeah, and even as someone who I teach spin class here at a studio in Zurich, and like I said, movement has always been a part of my life since I was a little girl, but still I find sometimes where, I really have to motivate myself. And part of it is mental dialogue. But one thing that is very practically motivating for me is music. And I mean, I am a musical person, so that really works for me. But and sometimes I have to pick up my phone and just literally tell myself, just press Spotify. Even if none of the music choices there look interesting to me at the moment, I will just literally press something. And as soon as I start to hear a beat, it's incredible the way that just the cells in your body start responding. And I'm like, okay. And it gives you this boost of energy. It really is incredible. So music can be hugely motivating. Another thing is to think about how good you'll feel after it's done. I mean, I think all of us can relate to when we've taken on a challenge, whether it's at work or in our personal lives or something physical, and you take on a challenge, and then when it's over, you feel so good about yourself. And this is another reason why physical activity and taking on that kind of challenge can be so helpful for our mental health in other areas, because sometimes there are massive problems at work that you can't solve, that are completely outside of your control. Sometimes there are relationships that break down. There are tragedies that hit our families that are unexpected. There are global crises like a pandemic. There are so many things outside of our control. But what I can control is say, okay, I have this one earth suit that I'm in, and I want to treat it with respect. So, which means I want to nourish my body well. I want to hydrate. I want to get good sleep, and I want to get good physical activity. Those things I can control. And so physical activity is a kind of self-care and a kind of saying, hey, I can do this well, even if there are so many other things in life that I can't control. And so that is something I think that's hugely motivating. And for me, it often is, especially if I'm in a stressful situation, to say, I know I'm going to feel so much better after I do this. And it's going to help bring me to a more peaceful place where I can maybe address some of these other issues and release control if I have to.
Mm-hmm. You already briefly mentioned some of the things that you do. You mentioned your dog, you mentioned spin class. What activities do you normally do, and how have you had to adapt these recently? It's been quite hard for a lot of us who've wanted to do things, especially when the weather was nicer, and to feel really restricted in the options.
Yeah, the wonderful thing is that we in Switzerland have been able to continue to go outside. I know for many people in other countries in Europe, they haven't been able to get out of their house. And so that can present massive challenges for movement. But I, as I mentioned, teach spin class and also like to go to the gym and lift weights, because as a woman, it just feels really empowering to lift weights. So my gym closed, obviously. So I have downloaded a couple different fitness apps, and our living room has turned into a workout room as well, with a nice mat. I don't have any weights in the house, so I have been using big, heavy water bottles as weights. So no shame there in using whatever you can around your house as gym equipment. But have been taking advantage of this beautiful scenery that we have here in Switzerland, have been doing a lot of walks outdoors, which has been really wonderful. The Japanese call it taking a forest bath. And I love that, because yes, it is movement. It's getting outside and it's exercising the lungs and the legs. But there's also just this incredible sereneness of being out in the forest that there are a few other places, the forest, the mountains, that can really compare with that. It does a wonderful thing for your soul and for your mind. And so I've been taking many forest baths as well. And then, if I have a really, really good cleaning day, which I really like to clean. I really like to have a clean place.
You're welcome to come over anytime you like, Kirsten.
Well, and now, of course, we're all working from home. My husband and I are both working from home and sharing a space. And so obviously things get a little more disorganized or dirty faster. And so I'm always like, so if I have a really good cleaning day where I'm like really scrubbing and everything like that, I count that as my movement for the day. So those are some ways that I've adapted our routine. And then I take Elsa for lots of long walks, which is nice as well.
Elsa's your dog. We've seen her on Instagram.
My toy
She's
poodle.
Adorable.
Yes, thank you so much. Yeah, I swear the dogs are behind all of this. They're like our owners. They get to stay home. Oh, they're very blessed. Let's just put it that way.
They're enjoying this time more than some of us humans, definitely. But Kirsten, apart from physical activity, you already briefly mentioned nutrition as well, for example. What are some other things that we can really be taking the time to focus on to make our physical selves and our mental selves feel better during this time?
Well, I would say that the first thing to do is check in. This may be, sometimes we are such work machines, right? We're focused on just the tasks of the day. What do I need to get done? What do I need to get done for work? What do I need to get done for my family, for the household? And so maybe you haven't ever really checked in to say, how do I feel in my body? Taking a mental scan. How am I feeding myself? How am I hydrating? What is the quality of my sleep like? So first I would say check in. And if you're not aware, start to become aware of how those things are feeling. And then ask yourself what you need. See, we're intuitive creatures, and really we know, right? And of course we seek out expert opinion. And of course we read the latest research and we look at what the science says. But ultimately our bodies, we know what we need. So if you're feeling like after doing some of that mental check saying, I really need to get better quality sleep, then take that intention, take a journal, write down some steps of things you're going to do to create a routine to maximize the quality of your sleep. And that is something that I'd like to emphasize on any of these things that you realize I want to work on taking care of my physical self better in these ways. Crafting a routine is so, so helpful. having a ritual for the morning or the evening when you go to bed. Like for me, my evening ritual is I tidy up the house. I tidy up the living room. I close the laptop and put the mouse away and like set it in its nice spot. I obviously wash face, brush teeth, and then I put the essential oils in the diffuser, lavender, which is very soothing and calming before going to sleep. And then I stretch. That's another great physical activity tip. If you don't feel like moving or doing high impact, just stretch. I do a little bit of stretching, like 5 to 7 minutes of stretching before I go to sleep. Nothing too intense, but just a way to feel my body, stretch everything out before I hop into bed. And then you've got the oil going, sleep routine is done, and try to aim between 7 and 8 hours of sleep. So create a ritual like that for yourself can be really, really helpful. But I would say the most important thing is to do that scan and then be intentional about the changes you want to make. Don't just say, I want to drink more water or I want to get more sleep. If you just say that, it won't happen. Make a plan, make a ritual, and start practicing that new habit.
That makes absolute sense. And I was just wondering as well, during this time, we've had a bit more time at home, a bit more time with family. Have you discovered anything new that you enjoy doing that was maybe a new discovery for you as well during this time?
You know, my husband and I have always really enjoyed cooking and being creative in the kitchen, but because of our work schedules, it wasn't something that we were able to do very often. And now we get to do it every night. So it actually has been something that I think both of us really look forward to. And we really enjoy experimenting with different flavors and different spices and different herb combinations and trying new things. And so that's been a bonding thing for the two of us, but also it's just been really, really fun as well, and to learn to cook new things and experiment. And also to that end, we started an herb garden on our balcony. So his family is really into gardening, and they have this gorgeous garden at their home in Germany. And I grew up in the suburbs of Detroit in Michigan, and we had a pool in the backyard, but we didn't have anything close to a garden. You know, no one that I knew growing up gardened at all. So I definitely do not have a green thumb. I have like a black thumb probably, but I'm trying to learn. And so, you know, it has been so wonderful to be a part of a family who does love this so much. And so we decided, okay, we're going to plant some herbs on the balcony. This is going to be our quarantine project. And we have 9 different kinds of herbs. We have parsley, coriander, garlic, thyme, rosemary, basil. I forget some of the others. I won't bore you with them, but we were able to plant them all. They're all still surviving, Anna, and we're able to then use them in our cooking. And it has really been a joy to start to learn more about gardening as well, and see the literal like fruits of our labor and eat them as well. So
it's always great when something pays off, right? I mean, that's the sort of reward that you have at the end of the effort. And it's also creating a routine for you as well during this time, having that daily cycle of, you know, cooking and enjoying something together. That's also supporting the creation of a routine. I think that also gives a lot of stability when things are so uncertain right now, and that stability can be really, really helpful. And to a similar end, I was wondering about relaxation time. Is that just as important as active time? And do you have how to actually use the relaxation time to relax instead of having these thoughts? And that ability to switch off is not necessarily a natural gift that comes easily. Do you have any tips?
Yeah, and it's also something we need to be very intentional about right now, as the boundaries between work and home life are so blurred because so many people are working remotely. But yes, from both a mental and a physical perspective, rest is equally important as work. From a physical perspective, your muscles are not actually able to grow if they don't have the time to relax. If they're constantly being stressed, and obviously there's a lot more science on this than we have time to go into now, but if the muscle is constantly being broken down, it doesn't have the time to repair and therefore grow. So if you're trying to build muscle mass, or you're trying to improve your physical fitness, those rest days are very important, or else you won't achieve the results that you want. Similarly, with our mental health as well, self-care and relaxation is incredibly important. We cannot keep going at 100 miles an hour. That isn't sustainable. Eventually, you'll have a mental breakdown, burnout. It comes in many different forms, but it will happen. It's a promise if you keep going at breakneck speed. But relaxation looks different for everyone. I am very bad at relaxing. I'll just tell you. And I think it's probably because I have been a very active person all my life. But I think my mindset really switched when I realized that relaxation for me might not necessarily look like just sitting on the couch all day. For some people, it might, and that's okay if that's what they need, right? But for me, it's more relaxing to spend time with people, take not strenuous walks outside, right? But just being outside, being mildly active, being out in nature, having a good cup of hot tea and reading a book, reading an actual book, not reading something on a screen. But for me, relaxation is less about a lack of activity as it is about a lack of external stimulation, especially when it comes to technology. So, and baths. I really do love baths. I do some of my best thinking in the bath. So obviously we all want to be conscious of our water use. Water is a precious resource, but those are some things that are really helpful for me. But relaxation time is equally important. And again, do that kind of mental scan, that check of, okay, what is most relaxing for me? Don't think that you have to adapt your relaxation to what other people are saying is relaxing for them. You find out what's best for you. You plan the time to do it, be intentional, and relax in the way that is most beneficial for you.
That's great advice. And it might look different from day to day. So if you check in, take the time, what do I need today? What do I need right now? Then you can also listen to your body and do what would be right for you on that particular day. And I do have one last question. When we were setting up this session, you mentioned the book and you recommended it as reading, Full Catastrophe Living. And it talks a lot about mindfulness. And I was just wondering if you could explain to us why you chose that summary and what you gained from reading that particular title.
Yeah, thank you. And I really encourage everyone to read the abstract because, and it's not recent. I mean, it's been around for a long time, but mindfulness has started to really become a part of the conversation, both at schools for children, up through university level, into office and work environments. Everyone's talking about this, and the idea has been around for a long time. So if you want kind of a primer into mindfulness, this abstract is excellent and provides some really, really wonderful practical tools for implementing mindfulness in your everyday life. But what I love about it is this concept of practicing staying present. And I say practicing because it's not something that just comes naturally. And we live in such a fast-paced and overstimulated world that it's not something you're immediately going to be good at. So if someone has said, oh, I tried mindfulness, it doesn't work for me or whatever, keep at it, keep practicing it. It's a muscle that needs to be worked in order to get stronger. But mindfulness is really about staying present in the moment. And that's both like mentally and physically. So physically, you can do some things where you put both feet on the floor, you place both hands on your lap, you close your eyes, and you can even just do a 60-second check-in, meaning closing your eyes and saying, okay, I feel my toes, feeling the pressure of your fingertips on your legs, feeling your breath work, like feeling and yourself actually breathe. Like, when do we ever take the time in the day to say, I'm going to focus on my breath right now? I mean, we rarely ever take the time to do that. And just doing that 60-second scan can really help us check into the present. And that helps our brain focus on what we can do in the moment. Not worrying about yesterday is already happened. You can't change it. Tomorrow, the future, we can't control. We have no idea what's going to happen in the next 5 minutes. So bringing your attention to the present can really help bring calm and peace and help you fulfill some of those intentions that you set, whether it's a routine, whether it's more physical activity, better sleep, being more present with your family members or your work. But taking that time to check in, to pause and reflect and be mindful is essential and the foundation for whatever goals it is that you want to set in every other area of your life. So I am a huge proponent of mindfulness. It really is an excellent foundation. And yes, absolutely want to recommend people to that abstract if they want some practical tools to start. And I will say, if you want to start anywhere, just start focusing on your breath. And there are tons of excellent articles, great research into the importance of focusing on your breath. So if you're going to start anywhere, start there. We need breath to live,
No,
right?
So we do. And like you said, we too seldom take the time to appreciate these things or to even notice these things that are happening. So I think that's a wonderful point to end on. And I would just like to say thank you so much, Kirsten, for sharing not only your personal experiences, but also so much advice. And I hope this get together will inspire, well, it's inspired me. Maybe it will inspire some other people, whether it is to start focusing on your breath or just get up and go for a walk or clean. That could also be a great starting point. Whatever it is, I hope it's inspired a few people also to get moving and to appreciate the mind-body connection. So thank you again, Kirsten.
And can I
yes,
say one more thing?
Yes.
I just I just want to share one thing that I think I wanted to share earlier, and that's that, you know, it's really about a shift in mindset from I have to do this. Like, I just don't, you know, I'm so passionate about movement and about health and well-being. And I think we need to all shift our mindset from I have to do this, like I have to work out, I have to, you know, to I get to do this. Like a couple of years ago, I broke my ankle, and it wasn't a major surgery. I just had one nail that had to be inserted into my fibula. So it was, from an orthopedics perspective, very minor. But I was then recovering for about 4 months afterward, and it took me a good 6 months to be able to ride my bike again, to even be able to walk without a lot of pain or discomfort. And during that time, I realized I'd been like pushing my body and working out in a way of like, oh yeah, I've got to do this. I got to charge through. I got to, you know, accomplish this goal. And after being out for so many months, I realized I am so lucky that I have been able to, up until this point, move, walk without pain, walk up or down a flight of stairs. I mean, I'm so lucky I get to do this without pain. And so I think, especially for those of us that are young and healthy, it's really important to shift the mindset from, oh, exercise is something I have to do, to something that, like, while I'm young and healthy and strong, I'm going to do this with gratitude because I do get to move my body, because there will probably be someday in the future when I'm not able to anymore. So I'm going to do this from a perspective of gratitude rather than it's a task I have to perform. And that mindset shift should really help bring a lot more joy to movement rather than obligation.
And a lot more motivation as well. If we can be grateful, then it motivates us to really enjoy the gifts that we do have. So thank you so much, Kirsten. We will see you again very soon, I'm sure, for more get-togethers, more webinars. And in the meantime, thank you, and we'll see you soon.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye, everyone.